What's up guys, Tommy Bowyer here from Movie Rewind, and today I'm going to be reviewing Casualty Storm Damage. So without further ado, let's get into it. Casualty Storm Damage commenced airing on the 15th of June 2024 and concluded after 12 episodes on the 7th of September 2024. It's the first series to have Roxanne Harvey as executive producer, who took over the role from John Sen. Now, with any new series which has a new executive producer in the role, there is a little bit of anxiety. I thought John Sen was an amazing executive producer. He brought in some great changes, some great characters, completely changed the dynamic of the show, but he also understood what Casualty was, how Casualty should run. So when John Sen, it was announced that he was leaving the role, I was a little nervous. I didn't know if Roxanne Harvey was going to be good, but after Storm Damage, yeah. They've picked the right person to lead Casualty into the future. Storm Damage is an incredible series, once again proving that the idea of having 12-episode miniseries is just the right way for the show to go. It leads to a lot better quality of storytelling, and also some of the performances in Storm Damage, they were incredible. So let's get on with reviewing this amazing series. So the overarching theme for Storm Damage is how the ED cope with a devastating storm which spirals its way throughout Holby, just devastating everything in its path. And I have to say, I really enjoy the fact that Casualty chose to use a storm, because it's something which a lot of places in the UK deal with every single year, with flooding, with trees falling over, with buildings being destroyed by storms. So I think it's really interesting that Casualty have chosen to handle that. And I also think it's interesting how the first few episodes of this series are about the storm as it's happening, and we see the influx of patients and all the characters having to deal with stuff. But then after that, we see the aftermath of the storm. We see the paramedics having to deal with a house which has collapsed due to the storm. So I think it's really interesting that this storm, despite only really lasting for the first 3 episodes, we see how it impacts the entire series. But I would say Storm Damage, even more so than the previous miniseries, A History of Violence and Breaking Point, really focuses on the characters. There is a lot of character-driven storylines in Storm Damage, and for the most part, I would say they are definitely the highlights. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again, a series of Casualty would be nothing without its characters, and Storm Damage does a great job with its character-driven storylines. The standout has to be Nurse Cam, who has his historic sexual abuse storyline, which is still a very taboo subject. You know, not every drama on TV will handle something as sensitive as this, but Casualty, they did an amazing job. I have to admit, when Barney Walsh came into the show as Cam, there was a lot of people very skeptical, because they thought that, you know, oh, he's only really famous because his dad's Bradley Walsh, you know, he's a token hire, he's not going to be any good. But Storm Damage has proven they were wrong. Barney Walsh is an incredible actor, and Cam is definitely the standout character in this series. I love how it shows how something that can happen in a person's childhood can just remain deep inside them for so many years, and then all of a sudden all it takes is the reappearance of a certain person and they're a kid again, living in fear. And I think they did a great job with that. I really enjoyed the character of Jamie. I think he was a very interesting take on this kind of sexual predator, someone who will never admit that he's done anything wrong. And I love the scenes when he's on his deathbed and all Cam wants is for him to admit that he abused him. But Jamie won't. He just says, well, you wanted it to happen. So even then, he's a coward. He was a coward until the very end of his life. But I do like how by the end of this series, we see Cam move on. You know, he bonds with Bobby, who was another person who Jamie abused. And we see how they agree that they don't need Jamie to admit that he did anything. They just need to admit to themselves that it was wrong, and then they have the power to move on. So I thought it was a really well handled storyline with some great performances from Barney Walsh. We also see clinical lead Siobhan go through a marriage breakup. Now, this is the first time we've actually had a nurse as clinical lead. I think it was a very interesting idea, and I don't know how it took Casualty 37 years for them to actually have a nurse as clinical lead, but Siobhan, she's proven herself. She's a great clinical lead. But as I said, she goes through a marriage breakup this series because her husband, a firefighter named Rich, is having an affair with her work colleague, consultant Stevie Nash. Now, I have to say, when Rich was introduced, we didn't know that he was Siobhan's husband. But when that twist was revealed, oh my God, I remember watching that and thinking, wow, that is amazing. And I have to say that it's a very interesting love triangle because Stevie was actually confiding in Siobhan about dating a married man. And Siobhan was saying, go for it. You don't know what their marriage is like. Little did she know that she was the wife of the man that Stevie was seeing. And I have to say, the final 2 episodes of this series, when it's all revealed, you see how much Siobhan is devastated. Not only that her 25-year marriage is over, but the fact that he cheated on her with one of her friends at her work. You can just see some great performances from Elaine Hill. She's a great addition to the cast as Siobhan, and I look forward to seeing how this storyline's going to progress because it's obvious that Siobhan hasn't made up with Stevie yet. There's clearly still some animosity between the two, so I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. Junior Doctor Nicole goes through a lot in Storm Damage because obviously she is a surrogate, she is pregnant, but the mum, who she's being a surrogate for, Rosie, doesn't want anything to do with the kid because the kid has Down syndrome. So Nicole is forced to go through this on her own, but fortunately she does have her good friend Ngozi with her. And I have to admit, I really like these two together. I was picking up that there was chemistry between them for some time, but they finally kissed during the latter part of this series, and I have to say, I really like those two together. I think they'd be a great pairing. Two very good actors, clearly have great chemistry, and it'd be great to see them get together. But obviously the series ends on a bit of a sad note for Nicole because Rosie comes back and decides she's ready to be a mum. So Nicole lets her have the baby, and you feel so sorry for Nicole. She's such a upbeat character, someone who's always positive, always has a smile on her face. And to see her so devastated at losing this child who she honestly thought she was going to be able to raise, it was just devastating. And I was almost tearing up when she says goodbye to that child and we see Ngozi hug her and try and comfort her. That was such an emotional scene and some great acting from Sammy T. Dobson. She did an amazing job with this storyline. Jacob goes through quite a lot this series because he's still trying to be a grandfather to Carter, but we also see the reintroduction of his son Blake. And I really think Casualty did a great job with this storyline because at first it looks like Blake might just be a drug addict, and I thought, well, we've seen this kind of storyline before, it's not that original. But then they highlight how because Blake's grandmother, Jacob's mum, had schizophrenia, that it can actually run in the family. So then they explore how Blake may be having a mental breakdown and we see Jacob having to deal with that. And I think it's a really interesting storyline. Obviously, it's just started, so hopefully that will continue when Casualty returns at Christmas. And I'll be interested to see what happens there because Jacob is a very caring individual. He obviously cares a lot for his son and his grandson, and he wants them to be a proper family. So I just hope that Jacob gets what he wants because Jacob is one of those characters that doesn't have a lot of luck and that Casualty don't like being happy for too long. So I honestly hope that he does get a bit of happiness. Plus the scenes in which Blake is sectioned and sedated were really emotional scenes, and I think Charles Venn as Jacob did a great job displaying the horrors of a parent in watching something like that happen. Elsewhere in the series, we see a few relationships go through some troubles. Ian and Faith. What is it, Casualty writers? You don't like Ian and Faith to be happy. We see Ian getting beaten up by a group of men while trying to protect Faith and Luca, and then we see Luca is suspended from school because Ian, dealing with the fact that he was beaten up teaches Luca how to fight, so Luca beats up one of his bullies to the point that he ends up in the ED. So, yeah, it's clear to say they go through some relationship problems, but by the end of the series, it was actually really nice to see Ian move in with Faith. You know, he's like, well, hang on, I want to be part of your family, so let me move in. And Faith's like, yeah, all right, move in with me. And I think that's great. Ian, once again, like Jacob, one of those characters who doesn't seem to get much happiness, and I really like him and Faith together. I think that Michael Stevenson and Kirsty Mitchell have great chemistry on screen, so I'd love to see Ian and Faith actually have a proper family for a change. I think it'd be nice for both of those characters. And we also see Jodie and Teddy split up. I don't know what it is about Jodie. Whenever she finds a good person to be with, she screws it up. You know, they were together, they were living together, everything seemed to be going well, and then Jodie decided to go on dating apps and flirt with random people. And I just was watching the show thinking, Jodie, why are you doing this? You know, you seem, as soon as you have something good in your life, you decide to screw it up. So, yeah, it doesn't look like they're going to get back together anytime soon. But who knows? You never know. You know, they were decent together, and after all that Teddy's been through, I think, you know, it'd be nice if he had some happiness, but maybe Jodie just isn't the right girl for him. Now, lastly, I would like to talk about my favourite storyline of this series, and that is fan favourite consultant Dylan Keogh having to say goodbye to his long-term companion dog, Dervla. Dervla has been with Dylan since he first appeared in 2011. He's as iconic as the consultant himself. And in Storm Damage, we see that Dervla has a tumour, which the vets can't perform any real treatment on. So Dylan makes the painful decision to put Dervla to sleep. And the scenes in which Dylan say goodbye to Dervla, oh my God. They were emotional as hell. William Beck is such an incredible actor. And that is going to go down in history as one of Dylan's most memorable scenes, because just seeing Dervla, who he has so much love for, you know, Dervla is his true companion, the love of his life. So for Dylan to have to say goodbye to Dervla, it was a very emotional scene, and William Beck deserves all the credit for his acting. And actually, I don't know if any of you have noticed, but if you follow Casualty on social media, they revealed a few weeks ago that Dylan has actually appeared in over 400 episodes. So if you're actually a fan of Dylan and the actor William Beck, I would watch this special tribute that they do to Dylan, because it's really interesting. We see a lot of the cast talk about how great William Beck is to work with and how much dedication he has for the role. So I really would recommend watching that if you enjoy Dylan as a character, because I think it's a great little celebration of the longest serving character on the show now that Charlie's gone. Plus, we also see that Dylan has a new love interest in the form of nurse Sophia. At first, I didn't know about them. I thought, there doesn't seem to be a lot of chemistry there. But by the end of the series, I really enjoyed them together. I think they're both as socially awkward as one another, so it seems to work quite well. So I'm looking forward to seeing if that romance progresses when Casualty returns. So in conclusion, Casualty Storm Damage had some very strong character-driven storylines. I think all of the actors were on top form once again, and while I was sceptical about the reduced episode count at first, it's clear it was the right move, because they clearly have more time, more resources to make high quality episodes of the show, and Storm Damage is another example of this mini-series format working 100%. So thanks for watching, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed this review. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe in order to receive great and maybe even improved quality content in the future. Now, Casualty is off our screens until Christmas. What the hell is that all about? But saying that, the Christmas teaser that they gave, damn, that was ominous. It looks like one of the paramedics could be in trouble. So that could be Ian, Jan, Teddy or Jacob. Now, all four of them I really enjoy as characters, so if anything happens to any of them, I'm going to be really upset. But anyway, Casualty is off our screens until Christmas now. I can't wait for it to return. I'm sure you guys can't either. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you in another one. See ya!